Dustin. Dustin just walked in.
Name. Okay. 1 minute, folks.
We're good to go whenever you're ready.
Okay, fantastic. All right, it gives me great pleasure to call this meeting to order. At this time, if we could all stand for the invocation by Sister Barbara McCracken.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us pray. We gather before you, Holy Spirit, to consider the city of Atchison's needs. Make yourself at home in our hearts. Teach us the way we must go and how we are to pursue these important needs. We are weak and sinful. Do not let us promote disaster. Do not let ignorance lead us down the wrong path, nor partially influence our actions. Let us find in you our unity so that we may journey together and not stray from the way of truth and what is right. All this we ask of you, who are at work in every place and time, in unity with the Father and the Son, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. You may be seated. At this time, seeing as we do not have any proclamations, I would ask Tina, our city clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Young,
Present.
Vice Mayor Wilcox.
Present.
Commissioner Greenlee,
Present.
Commissioner Murphy,
Present.
Commissioner Slattery.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, we will have Chief Weiser, who will present the 2024 Junior Fire Marshal Program Awards. And I would ask, as Chief Weiser calls your name, if the awardee could please step up to our area, and we are going to move back so that we can have an orderly procession of the Junior Fire Marshals, and then also so that the Globe may have a photo. All right, Chief Weiser.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to, in a second, we'll get to this, but now that I have all these fire chiefs in the room, they want to talk about this new fire truck next year too, so I've got some backup with me. This is a 5-week course done with all the 4th grade classes in town. It's taught by Lieutenant Rick Weiss here, who puts a lot of work into this every year. It consists of, like I said, 5 weeks of fire safety. It's a program that's encouraged to take home, work with your families, work on their own at their home with their own fire safety at home. We're presenting tonight the fire chiefs that are on the list here. So I will go ahead and get to the names. If you guys want to come over here when they announce. The first chief we got on the list is Leonidas Downing. Let me get out of it. All right, the second chief we have is Jasmine Seymour. Next one on the list is Nora Patterson. Next fire chief is Nora Deffenbach. Next is Aiden Ball. Next is Knox Gehring. Go this way. Sorry, you're not done yet. Next is Tara Pudrom. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Okay. All right, next is Karen Dixon. There, Sharon. All right, that's all of the students. Oh, Emma Hansel. All right, those are all the students from Atchison Elementary School. Next is St. Benedict's.
Congratulations.
First off, we have Hogan Bartlett. Next, we have Braylon Downing. Next is Catherine Mata. Next, Parker Oswalt. Next is Nadia Shanko. And from Trinity Lutheran, we have Hudson Shree. Everybody would give a round of applause to our 2024. All right, guys, thank you very much. Congratulations. All right, you guys can come on right now.
So.
Have a good one.
See ya.
You too. Love that name.
Okay. Okay, all right, if someone would like to shut the door.
Well, that was the fun part. Now we get into the other
Yes.
stuff.
Okay, all right. Well, again, congratulations to all of our 2024 Junior Fire Marshal Program awardees. We appreciate you. At this time, I will open our public forum. Persons who wish to address the City Commission, and I'll wait just a moment. It looks like we still have some people coming in. Okay, all right. Again, we are now going to enter into our public forum. Persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items that are not on the agenda, again, items that are not on the agenda, may do so at this time when called upon by the mayor. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should give their name and address when addressing the commission. Any presentation, is for information purposes only. Again, any presentation is for informational purposes only. And at this time, I will open the public forum. Yes, ma'am.
I won't keep you long. I just wanted to thank you all for helping get Lewis and Clark to Atchison and back. If it hadn't been for Pat, I don't know how we would have gotten the bridge open. We know how to do it now, to get them through, and Mike's group, because we had a few problems down at the boat. Kids thought they should get on the boat at night, at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and Clinton's group for all they did to help it. I wanted to let you, and I saw a lot of you commissioners wandering around, so I know you were down there to see what was going on. But just thank you, thank you. I don't know that they'll be back soon, but it was a really successful time, and we saw a ton of kids on Friday. So anyway, thank you so much. There was no fire. It was hotter than blue blazes, so we did not. And this is probably inappropriate, but I don't think I've had that many sweaty men in a long time. Because those guys were hot in those linen uniforms. But anyway, thank you so much.
Okay. And thank you, Mrs. Seberg. We appreciate all that you do for the city, so it's much appreciated. All right. At this time, is there anyone else who wishes to address the City Commission on items that are not on the agenda? All right. If not, we are going to close the public forum at this time. It is closed. All right. Next, we will have the consent agenda presented by our city manager, Mr. Mark Westhoff. Mr. Westhoff.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. 3 items on the consent agenda today. The first item is to approve the minutes from the October 7th, 2024 City Commission meeting. Second item is to approve the cereal malt beverage license for Walmart, number 1054, contingent upon the building inspector's approval. And the third is to approve the taxi license for Crittenden Home Care LLC. Staff recommends approval of the consent agenda as presented.
All right, Commissioners, do we have any questions regarding the consent agenda at this time?
I move we accept it.
Okay, it's been moved that we accept the consent agenda as printed. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right, is there any question?
Is
Yes.
Crittenden, do they provide service to anyone or just to their residents? Anybody know?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to that.
I
Do
think
we?
it's just their home care, but I'm not 100%.
I think it's just
Okay.
their home care service.
Is the
right.
word taxi?
Yeah, it's just the type of service that they provide, according to our ordinance, requires that license.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so just to clarify, it's the ordinance that requires that certain terminology. Is that correct?
That's my understanding of how it's been
Okay.
interpreted in the past for this specific taxi license, which they've had for many years. It's just a renewal.
Okay, all right. Any other questions on the motion? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, next, we will move to our new business, and we will have, presented by Mr. Clinton McNamee, the CDBG LFM Park Improvement Project Bid Award, 23-PF-009.
All right, actually, what I'd be presenting would be a extension request, second extension request. We extended it initially back in July, if you'll remember that meeting. We repackaged the project bid with more options for bill alternates in hopes that we'd be able to scope together a project more in line with our budget. And additionally, we'd hope to receive more competitive bids because we'd only received the one. After rebidding, we received only a single bid again from the same contractor. The base bid this time was $740,000 compared to the original $896,000 base bid. And those savings can be attributed to pulling the picnic shelter item out of the base bid and put it into the bid alternates, and then also having the city crew do some of the demolition work in addition to some of the work for the splash pad utility connections. The base bid plus alternates this time was $924,000 compared to $1,068,000 last time. While the cost is lower this time, I think we can do better in terms of cost if we request a second extension, split the project up into multiple bids with the city playing the role of the general contractor. For example, the initial bid included a 30 by 44 shelter plus installation at a cost of $101,000. This time, 3 months later, the same shelter, just the shelter, us doing the city doing the installation was $135,000. So I don't really quite understand that. And I contacted a vendor that we've used in the past for a shelter that might be the actual exact one that was quoted. Freight and shipping altogether was estimated from the supplier to be 65 to 70,000. So I think that's one example of a few in this whole thing that if we just play that role, we might be able to do this thing budget, if not under. The plan moving forward would be to split it up. As I said, we'd probably do the splash pad as a separate bid, the concrete flat work, the picnic shelter, the electrical, and the playground. The city would do the demo of like the playground equipment and things like that. Have some alternates in there for each one of those. But yeah, I recommend that we authorize the mayor to submit another letter to KDOC requesting another 90-day extension on the contract deadline, which would put us at late December.
Just to be clear, we need to actually,
Or no, excuse me, late January.
do we need to actually, do they need to vote to reject the bid and to send the letter for the requesting the extension?
That
Or is that
would be wise, I suppose, to put that in the language.
All right.
You can do it all in one motion if you'd like, but
Yes, I think it would be cleaner in one motion. Do we have any questions for Mr. McNamee at this time?
Well, I'm
Okay.
just a little bit less disappointed than the last time, but I think that your plan gives us a better option of getting it done what we want at a better price, although I'm concerned about the amount of work that it puts on you and your staff to move forward with that plan, so. And I'm also disappointed that we don't have the project completed.
Right. Well, the person that I'll probably put in lead on this one, in terms of playing that role of GC, is his previous life was a contractor here in town, and so he's very well used to sequencing different subs and packaging all that together so that we're not on top of each other and doing things out of order, and so I have full confidence that he'd be able to do that. Plus, we've got myself and other staff that will help out. So.
And I assume that bids going forward would also be extended to local contractors.
Yes.
always.
You know, in talking to them, they don't seem to feel that way, but
Bids are open to the
with this
public.
particular, I know, but they're not, most people don't go
They
out
aren't getting the
looking
work
for
for some
jobs
Okay.
because they got enough jobs.
Yeah.
So I think we have to present it to them, say, here's a local project that you might be able to help us with, in part as community service. They probably could make more money somewhere else, but
Well, if you've talked to some contractors that we haven't talked to, then I'd be
well, I
curious
don't know who
after
you
the
talk
meeting.
to, and I don't want
to-
to give any names out here.
That's what I'm
Quite
saying. After
honestly.
the meeting, you know, I'd be
Okay, all right.
more than happy to reach out to them.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one question, Clinton. On this project, what's the square footage of this whole project? Do you know?
It's kind of separate
on what you're
pieces.
talking about.
Well, I know, the project. I mean, we know we're going to have splash pads, we know we're going to have picnic tables, we know we're going to have shelters. But how many square feet is the whole project?
If you'd scrolled to that,
Because to
That
me, it
bid,
still
Tina.
seems really high from the plans that I've seen.
I haven't not even come close to thinking of it in terms of square footage, but it's on there. If you look at the quantities and what's that first one, Tina?
Well, it depends on whether you're counting the whole
Splash
outside
pad,
perimeter
2,000
or just
square
like
feet.
what gets paid and what
Yeah,
gets
so
building
here,
on top of it.
there's,
The project,
Well, the project would be from sidewalk to sidewalk, almost a square block.
that's what I'm asking.
Over a square block.
I'm trying to figure out how much this is costing per square foot. I mean, it just seems per square foot to cost a lot of money.
I mean, if you want to break it down by square feet, you can see in the bid, 3,000 square feet for the pad for the shelter. That 2,090 square feet for the splash pad pavement. 1,200 square feet. additional, I'm guessing that's on the perimeter of the splash pad, a different type of pavement, so there you go, there's 3,290 more there, so we're to 6,290. Playground area, the surfacing, it looks like about 715 square feet. We're up to almost 7,000 square feet,
But if my math is any good, you're right at 10,000 square feet.
pretty close to 10,000 at the end.
And we have a bid of nearly $1 million, not a million, but nearly $1 million.
The base bid's 740,000, but that's why we're breaking it up into the constituent parts and
And that's, I
going out
just,
for bid for each piece and city acting as general contractor.
All right, very good. And as Vice Mayor Wilcox said, the concern about the additional work on our employees, you feel comfortable that they'll be able to complete their typical workload in addition to the needs of LFM Park?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend this if I thought it was gonna
Okay.
cause a lot of problems with our usual operations, so. I mean,
Maybe
we're
we need
working
to-
on projects all the time anyway, so it's just how they fit together. But
Okay.
Maybe we need to hire maybe like a construction manager of some kind. Is that what you were talking about there before, somebody that used to do construction here in town that you mentioned?
He already works for us.
Oh, he
Yeah.
does?
Yes, he works in Clinton's department.
I see.
Okay, all right.
Well, there's a bunch of items on here I think just stick out to me, like this splash pad flower element. That's $15,000. Right there at the bottom of that page. And then this building is just still clear out of control at 130,000 or anything over 40,000 is just, we can build a building, a local contractor can build that building. You could contract any 4 or 5 different contractors. But there's some obvious things like that I think can be eliminated. And I'm still looking at this splash pad. Have you looked at just putting it on a timer instead of having it on and off on each nozzle?
not at this time.
I think that's something we need to look at. Put it on a timer, the whole thing comes on and the whole thing goes off. We already bought a computer down here for that other one, because it just simplifies it and cheapens it up just tremendously. You get another $100,000 less by just turning it on and all of it running at one time, instead of it doing this off and on thing. I don't think, my grandkids like the one down there, and they like the one that down there by Kansas City, that the whole thing comes on at once. I don't think they care. I don't think there's any big difference. I think we could look at some of that kind of stuff. Got some big money off this thing in a big hurry. What if we change stuff like that? Can we go back to that engineer? Will he adapt his dream plan here into something more doable?
I think that probably would be more up to the splash pad manufacturer, what options they might have available.
I mean, from an engineering point of view, do we have to go back to that engineering company, or
Well, they're doing the bids for us, so in a way,
they're
yes.
the ones doing the bidding?
Yes.
Maybe that's why the local contractors don't know anything about it.
Well, I would dispute that fact, that the local contractors don't know anything about it.
Many of them
Some of them
are
might not.
choosing not to participate
Yeah.
because this is a federal grant and it comes with a series of attachments that they don't want any part of. They don't want any part of wage rate interviews, and it's just
that.
part of the grant game, especially with community development block grants.
Are
I'd
we
be
being held
surprised.
hostage?
What's that?
Are we kind of being held hostage by that?
No more than every other entity in the country that's getting federal grants.
I think we need to look at whether we want them or not,
Yeah.
because of all those details.
Well, again, I think the interesting thing and the good thing about grants is that it enables us not to spend as much if we didn't have the grants. So I do think that the grants are important, even though we do have a matching.
Well, but I think our matching amount on this particular case would build us a really nice thing up there, or the amount that we're gonna have to match. I think we could take that $500,000 about and build something really nice.
Well, let's get the other bids and then
Yeah.
allow Clinton to do
See
his
what we
work.
can do without it here. I don't know.
All right, do we, any other questions, any other concerns, comments?
Do we have a motion?
Okay, yep, we need a motion, so I would entertain a motion where we would reject the bid and authorize the mayor to sign a letter requesting an additional 90-day or 3-month extension for the CDBG LFM park improvement projects.
I make such a motion.
Okay, it's been moved, is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any other question on the motion? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, thank you, Mr. McNamee. All right, next, we will have board openings presented by the mayor, and we are going to be considering one applicant for the Planning Commission, and that is one city resident, Mr. Derek Franklin. And again, he will be representing on the Planning Commission, and it will be for one unexpired term, July 31st, 2025. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Franklin to the Planning Commission?
I move we appoint him. He's the only one they had as an applicant?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we appoint Mr. Derek Franklin to the Planning Commission. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. 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 All those opposed, saying sign. Congratulations to Mr. Franklin. I would just draw everyone's attention to the fact that we have several other openings, and we would like to have individuals volunteer for that. Board of Code Review, one building contractor for that. Design Review Committee, one representative from the local businesses. Park and Forestry Board, 2 city residents are needed. So I would just encourage everyone to look at our website, consider definitely volunteering for that service as we need you. All right, moving along, number 3, we will have presented by Phil Burke, our zoning officer, regarding the rezoning request of 920 North 4th Street, 908 North 4th Street, and 316 Unity Street, and 318 Unity Street. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mayor. What's brought forward tonight is a denial to rezone those 4 properties from R1 to R2. That happened at the October meeting of the Planning Commission by a 3-2 vote. We've had quite a bit of interaction and comments from the neighboring parties, and I think that was a consideration of the Planning Commission to deny it, getting rezoned, try to keep the single-family element intact, as all the neighbors expressed. If you have any questions, I think you have a lot of information on it, but in case you have any questions, please ask away.
Well,
Okay.
I don't have a lot of questions. I'm just going to react to a couple things. All the residents didn't say that. Okay, the majority probably. The second concern that I have is how often a specific group is identified as the problem, that being students. Okay? I understand how that changes a neighborhood. But anytime we say we don't want this group living next door to me, that's an issue, that's a problem for me. I don't want any race, religion, group denied housing wherever they choose to live. So whoever takes that position that we don't want students living next door to us, I don't know that we have I don't know if we have a legal leg to stand on or what, but it's a problem for me to hear that. Now, I get caught in the middle, because most people know that I used to work at the college, so they want to complain to me about problems at the college. Those people who I know who work at the college want to complain to me because they think I'll side with them. So I'm sort of caught in the middle. But don't tell me about you don't want somebody living next door to you.
You know, and I have to echo Commissioner Wilcox's concern as well, in that we being citizens of Atchison, and this commission agree that there is a need for housing, additional housing in Atchison. As to where we're going to put that additional housing, where do we put it? And if we have someone that's willing to provide additional housing, that is open for anyone that can afford that housing, then I'm for it.
Well, not only that, but it loosens up housing in other parts of town, you know? I think it's something that we should do. We should allow them to do it. The property owners right adjoining it, several of them said they liked the idea. I don't think it's necessarily spot zoning the way I looked at it.
Okay, all right. Yes, and I know that we have several individuals that would like to address the commission, and you may do so at this time. We'll follow the same format as the public forum, that when you step up to the podium, please state your name and your address. I would also ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, keeping with our public forum. So, yes, please.
Thank you. Excuse me, my name's Tim Drafts. I'm at 806 North 4th Street, about a block away. And it's not so much we don't want someone next to us, okay? It's the idea of going from an R1 single family to a multi-family environment. You're really changing you're changing the community character, okay? And if you look at that street that we're on, 4th Street, it's somewhat of a historic street. We've got the bricks there. We've got mostly single-family housing until you get south of about Kansas Avenue or so. And it's just that we want to keep that community as an R1. One of the things that has developed over the years here is Porch Fest. And Porch Fest goes from about Unity to Kearney. And the interesting thing about that is Porch Fest is there because there's all these porches. And now you're asking us to go from R1 to R2. And the question becomes, are we going to maintain that integrity to the community environment? And, the question of, do we need housing? Absolutely. But this is just me driving down the street, okay? Alternatives for affordable housing. This is empty land that we have available that we can build on that isn't R1. 4th Street south of Kansas Avenue across from the library is open. 3rd Street south of Kansas Avenue, southwest corner is open. Kansas Avenue between 7th and 8th Street on the south side of the road is open. Kansas Avenue and 8th Street corner has open land that's available. And you can repurpose the city parking lots because we no longer have a pedestrian mall. Parking is available now on commercial, so why not repurpose that? And you have a whole area that you can redevelop. And you can do it within the zoning and not come and change the character of our neighborhood. So, you need the housing, do it someplace where it makes sense. Why take a community that's R1 and drop in R2 in the middle of it? I'd really like to know why that sounds like a good idea.
I don't disagree with any of your points. I don't disagree with any of your points. But there's one variable that you didn't mention. Who's gonna step forward and build those homes on those lots that you mentioned?
The same person who's going to step forward and build on this lot here. Let's remember that this is a profit motive, okay? Building the land. This isn't something that's being done altruistically. They're expecting to make a profit. And what you're expecting us as homeowners to do is to pay the price for that profit. It's going to affect our values. It's going to affect the way the community, the character again of the community. And you're saying that we folks have been here for 20 plus years or so. are going to pay the price when you have all this additional land open. Trade it. Make a tax trade with them. Do something where you trade the land that, for the city to take that property and give them the parking lot. Do something like that. But don't come into our neighborhood and take us from an R1 to an R2 and then open us up. We've got 3 other rental properties in that area. And what you're saying here is you're going to make all 3 of them available to R2. You're going to change the character of our neighborhood. Why? That's what I'm asking you.
I have a question. In your neighborhood, are there no homes, single-family homes in that neighborhood that are not being rented to college students now?
I don't know. But I'll tell you this, the ones that have been rented to college students have been a problem in the past. The home right next to mine, before it was sold to a wonderful truck driver who seems to be away a lot, but his family's there. They've done great improvements to it. But previously, that was a party house. And we were calling the police every weekend and having them come in. And the funniest part was when the city police came along and they came with their lights off, completely off, went to both ends of the street, and I'm sitting there on my porch watching this go down, and then they lit it up at the same time, both ends of the street, lights, spotlights, everything, and these kids dropped all their beer cans and all that. We used to pick up beer cans all the time off our lawn. Matter of fact, my wife once, after one weekend, picked up all the beer bottles, all the wine bottles, and we delivered them to President Minnis's house. And we said, here's what the students are doing. Got 2 nice bottles of wine from them as a apology, but still, that's some of the things that we have to deal with. It's not that we don't want students, okay? As long as the students behave themselves, that's fine. My son has friends over, he's a college student at Benedictine. He has friends over every Thursday onto our front porch. What do? They eat pizza and they drink beer. But they don't throw the beer bottles on my lawn, and they're out of there by 10:30 at night. I haven't had a complaint from any of my neighbors on that. The real question is R1 to R2. Not who's going to occupy it, but R2 to R1. And I've gone way over my 3 minutes, but I'm sorry, I just wanted to answer your question.
No, and we were asking questions. At this time, do we have any other commissioners that wish to address Mr. Frazier?
I wanted to make one clarification
Yes.
that there was some conversation there about moving to rental. There's nothing in R1 that precludes someone from renting a property. I know that R2 generally might tend towards that more, but in general, R1 has no preclusion to renting. Someone who owns a home that's zoned R1 can rent it out or occupy it, so.
Okay, and I
On 4th
thought,
Street, and there's 3 houses there that are rented to college students right across the street and next to me. I've never had to pick up a single beer bottle.
all right.
I've never had a problem with it, to tell you the
Well-
truth.
Okay, yes, sir, if you would please come to the podium. I'm sorry, Commissioner. All right,
Okay.
all right, and state your name and your address.
Yeah, my name is David Gatewood, and I live at 313 Unity. And I own also the lot next door, which would have been 315 Unity. And those are directly across from 318 and 316. And first, I have no problem with the students. These are already R1 houses, and I have no problem with Mr. Ostertag. What he has built, up on Fifth Street is high quality, and I realize that there also needs to be housing up close to the school. My problem is strictly with the parking. The parking is a critical issue for being able to park up there already. It's hard to park in front of my place. sometimes I have problem getting the trash out because students come and park in front of, where I put the trash out there. It's very tight in that area. So if you could, come to a solution that where these R2s would have to have some off-street parking, I think, in my opinion, that would be something that needs to be done.
Okay. Commissioner Murphy, you had wanted to say something.
Well, thank you. I just have, this seems to be directed at college students. And I think everybody in this room's probably been a college student. And I don't think we should discriminate against college students or people who are trying to take care of college students and house college students. This seems like such a good balance. We need housing. He wants to build it. College students are not a problem that I've in my life, and I just think that there's a judgment call somewhere by somebody, and I just don't understand it.
Well, Bill,
In one of the, the place where Craig built his first duplex up there, what was there prior to that was a drug house. And I'm going to say he made a tremendous improvement to that neighborhood. My guess would be he's going to make a tremendous improvement to that neighborhood. And the difference between a single family housing with 8 people living in it or a duplex with 3 people on each side, I guess I'm just trying to make what the difference is. Why would we?
I think he's brought up a good point too about this parking. I mean, I used to go to St. Benedict to avoid paying the parking. I parked off campus and walked down, and it causes a problem. Not as much then, probably, I'd hope. But I mean, I think the college would do the city a little favor if they were to designate a parking lot that was for people that don't need to have their car every day. They have a big parking lot, I know, but even a gravel kind of a parking lot, that would help this problem, because I know, like in my case there where they live right next to me, every one of them's got a car. Some of them don't even use the car.
mm-hmm.
I don't know, that parking can be an issue. I've seen that. And I've been on the other side of the closet.
Yeah. Well, 309 next to me they have 4 cars. It's R1. Across the street is 316. They have 4 cars. That's R1. That doesn't count the boyfriends, okay, on the evening. But I had no problems with the students. All right, up there,
It'd be nice if they could help us with
I was a college student, and I know how you like to, people like to get together and party, but the parking is an issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name's Claire Haroldson, and I live at 421 North 4th Street in Atchison. I have 2 main concerns with the request to rezone especially this 4th Street property to R2. I guess I'll start with this point. I completely agree that college students, all peoples of all diverse populations, deserve safe and affordable housing. Families, single people, college students alike. It's my hope that the Commission will consider the common good of all the members of our community, families, single people, college students who need this safe and affordable housing. I worked in residence life at Benedictine for 5 years. I love our Benedictine college students. We have Benedictine students who are our neighbors now, and we love having them as part of our community. It was my experience working in residence life and housing at Benedictine that the lower density housing situations, 4 or 5 or less of students per unit, those were happier, healthier, more stable environments for the students. Without a safe and healthy living environment, students' performance in the classroom suffers and other areas of their life suffers. We want them to have good living environments. Rezoning the 4th Street property from 5 students, R1, to 10 students has the potential to increase the problems which arise at that location. And without a professional residence life staff like Benedictine employees, by which they implement a code of conduct, they address issues that arise, they support the students to promote healthy living and a safe environment. Instability for those students at those larger density R2 rezoned properties may be the unintended consequence of this decision to rezone. So that's one of my sincere concerns. I want healthy, happy community for families and college students alike. I think R1 achieves that for us. Second point is I think the rezoning can threaten our historic character of 4th Street. My husband and I purchased our home in 2021 due to the historic character of our house, built in 1892, and the historic character of our neighborhood as a whole. There are 6 homes on 4th Street that are on the historic registry: 418 North 4th, 805, 822, 417, 704, 819. And it's my understanding that the Code of Ordinances for the City of Atchison states that the city shall not undertake any project which will encroach upon, damage, or destroy any historic property included in the National Historic Registry or the State Registry of Historic Places or the environs of such property until the State Historic Preservation Officer has been given notice, as provided herein, an opportunity to investigate and comment upon the proposed project. Notice to the State Historic Preservation Officer shall be given by such city when the proposed project or any portion of the project is located within 500 feet of the boundaries of a historic property. It's my understanding that one of these properties to be rezoned, at least one of them, is within 500 feet of 822 North 4th, which is on the historic registry. And so it would be my hope, I'll conclude here, I won't read you all my remarks, but I think this spot zoning being attempted today has the potential to damage the nature and the value of these historic properties on 4th Street. So we respectfully, my husband and I, request that you vote to reject this rezoning. Even if these properties didn't fall exactly within that 500-foot boundary, we would hope that the commission would see the number of historic homes on 4th Street and the historic character of this block as a whole as something to be preserved for the current and future generations to learn from, appreciate, and enjoy. Again, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So my question is, how would that be different if since it's a historic neighborhood and it's within 500 feet, if that's true, would it be any different for a single-family house, a new build there, or a duplex?
Sure. So it's my understanding that the current historic homes are single-family properties, or at least initially were. I'm not sure what their zoning is now. But it seems that it would fit more cohesively. I think we should at least look at what is going to be the effect of changing the zoning from single-family housing to these duplex situations with a larger density of residents. What is that going to do? We should at least inquire, what is that going to do to the historic nature of the cohesiveness of the neighborhood? Okay, thank
Again,
you.
I agree with almost all your points, but one of the unique things about this town to me is I can drive down certain streets and there's this beautiful home, and next door is a shack. So if you go up 2nd Street, or you go up 5th Street, or 4th Street, there's some spectacular homes, and then there's a much, much less spectacular home next to that. So I don't know if
Well, and that's what we're trying to invest in and change. Our particular home was worth $44,000 less than 10 years ago, and the valuation of it is now over $200,000. And thanks to an investor who came before us, who put a lot of investment into that property, rented or had college students live in that property, then used it as a VRBO, then sold it to our family, bought another property in town, which is a single-family house that they are living in. And so they're helping develop these homes that can benefit college students and families alike. And I just think that R1 designation is a way that we can keep trying to revitalize the neighborhood so that we don't have, this difference between good housing, poor housing. I want everybody to benefit from investment in our neighborhood. Thank you.
I have a question for you, though.
Sure.
We're calling this multifamily. If there's room, what if he built 2 houses?
I think if they were R1 designation, I think that would.
But all the problems that you're talking about have nothing to do with multifamily or 2 houses. All those things that are in jeopardy that you care about, and I care about them too. But all the things you care about are going to happen if he builds 2 houses, or if he builds
Share a
one.
common
I disagree, though, that the designation doesn't matter, because I think the type of structure and the type of zoning for that structure can have an impact on who is choosing to live in that structure and how long they'll choose to live in that structure. And even if it's for a short amount of time, a set of college students for 9 months, if it's 5 instead of 10, I think that can really make a difference for their quality of life while they're there.
But I think you could have 10 people in or one house.
I don't think R1 permits that, though, does it?
Have 5 in each one, I don't see any difference.
He's saying if you build 2.
2 separate homes.
If you build 2 separate homes.
No, if you built one big R1 house.
I don't think 10 unrelated.
You can have 5 unrelated individuals in one unit.
Okay, and I appreciate everything that you've said, and I certainly understand the historic preservation aspect of it. I think, though, that with Mr. Ostertag, I think his builds have complemented the historic nature of the neighborhood. And Mr. Ostertag, do you work with the neighbors to ensure that the historic preservation, that type of environment, atmosphere is adhered to? Everything I've seen of your structures has been exemplary, in my opinion. Do you care to elaborate? Okay. Okay. Okay, all right, I understand, I just wanted to make that clarification. But I also wanted to let you know that we certainly understand your concern about
Yeah, and I
the
think it's
historic
not just the external character, but also the designation R1 versus R2. What impact is that going to have on the state and nature of the historic properties that it impacts?
There are duplexes all down 4th Street and 5th Street, and I grew up in a duplex. I just am trying to figure out, and we live right next door to a 3-story mansion. Did I feel out of place as a kid? Did my neighbors feel out of place living next to my dad with all these kids? I don't think so. I think we're making some determinations here that don't really hold true. And it feels like a judgment of people who live in duplexes, like they're a different sort.
I certainly don't want to make that preconceived judgment about that at all. I want good housing for everybody involved. I just think we should consider, I'm just asking that maybe we consider what effect is that going to have. Maybe others have other points that will bring that forth further.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Zia. I'm at 822 North 4th. I just have a quick comment or request. I don't know how this works, but my request is as follows, however this works. Is there a way that before a decision is made on this petition, that whether it be the city attorney or someone else, that they can look into if the information Ms. Haroldson found out is true about its type of permission needed in order to rezone within 500 feet of a historical register home, and as the property owner in question of the home on the historical register that may be within that 500 feet, I would think it would be appropriate that that issue be resolved at the level at which it stands before we would move further on this type of petition. Thank you.
What was your address, sir?
822 North 4th Street.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zia. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Matthew Muller. I live at 923 North 4th Street. I'm directly across the street from some of these properties. And then can I hand out a piece of paper and like pass it to the commissioners?
Yes, if you can hand it to our city manager. Yep, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so one of the first things I want to say that has been brought up several times is I'm not, and those of us who are here are not opposed to college students. I think that has been brought up more by the commissioners and imposed on us than we have brought that up at all. I have a student at my house watching my kids right now. College students have coached my kids in sports. I go to their sports and cheer them on. I teach them every day. I'm not opposed to college students. Okay, and I think that has been reiterated by everyone who's come to the microphone. And I'm not motivated by any sort of like, animus or thing towards anybody, right? I'm opposed to this in principle, and I think I think this needs to be taken very seriously. I mean, because we're talking about rezoning 4 properties. We're not talking about rezoning just Craig's. We're talking about 4 properties that have asked to be rezoned. Are we all in agreement on that? Yes. That wasn't always clear when I was hearing some of the discussion. 4 properties are being asked to be rezoned. So that would still be spot zoning, right? Because they're all 4 together, but it's still surrounded by R1s, right? One of my neighbors who can't be here told me that if this goes through, he feels like the city is essentially pushing R1 families like out of the area, saying this whole area will become duplex. That was his view, right? Or like densely populated area, okay? So I've been informed throughout this process that the city of Atchison needs more affordable housing, and that clearly makes sense. I don't think the proposal here addresses affordable housing because we're talking about renting properties at a premium, right? If we follow the current zoning regulation, building an R1 single-family home provides something that can meet more needs for people over the long term. Right? This would be a welcome addition to the neighborhood, and build a house there, right? It would be a building that could be rented to college students right away at a premium price or to anybody in town, right? Then if the market changed and there weren't as many students to rent it or anyone else in town who wanted to rent it, they weren't able to pay the premium, the house could be sold to a family, right? Something like this happened with Claire Haroldson's property. Something like this is happening at 305 Unity Street, where Billy Andre is restoring an old property there. Okay? He's not asking to rezone, he's building a house there, right? He's going to make money off of that. These projects are great examples of restoring and building up old Atchison with homes that fit the zoning and the R1 residential character of the neighborhood. Right? I think the other issue that seems to be coming up, right, that I've heard, right, is that the city of Atchison wants to be able to generate more tax revenue, and vacant lots don't do that, which is fine. That's why I gave you this document here. Right? I'm not opposed to building new buildings. I'm not opposed to progress. Right? But I think the compromise solution here that allows everyone to benefit, and it's set in the writing in the zoning codes of Atchison, right? I think the city commissioners cannot allow property owners, whether it's Craig or the other landlords that are involved with this, to threaten to say it's an all or nothing proposition. You either rezone and let me build the maximum thing to maximize profit, or we build nothing, okay? An R1 property was bought in an R1 neighborhood, done in full knowledge of the zoning situation, right? I think the win-win compromise solution here is to maintain the zoning regulation in this area. Craig can benefit by putting up a nice building, or as he told me after the last planning commission meeting, a barn. He told me he could put up a barn, put college students in it, and have them party all night long, right? You remember, Mark was there. I remember. Yeah, you were there. But I mean, he could, right? Because that's within the zoning, apparently, right? But he's not going to do that because, as everyone says, Craig builds nice stuff. So he builds a nice home. He can rent it out immediately, make money off of that. The city wins because it would begin seeing increased tax revenue from that vacant lot. The empty value of the lot currently is $4,230, okay? The average of the single-family houses across the street, that's what this piece of paper shows, right, is $183,080, okay? So then I looked at, okay, so there's the duplex on the corner that Craig owns, valued on the 5th and Unity, valued at $176,860. The duplex that just south of that is at $115,870. Now that's probably looked at when it was still under construction, so it wasn't quite finished. But what I'm saying is, it seems clear that whether it's a duplex or single-family home, they have similar tax valuation. Like, we don't need to build duplexes in order to increase tax valuation, right? So it's not necessary to do that. The neighborhood then, so the win-win-win, right? The neighborhood wins by maintaining the R1 status, getting a building that looks nice, is built with quality, because, as everyone says, that's what Craig does. And if it ever ceases being a rental property, a family could move into it. And what is being proposed with these duplexes, as he's done before, has only really one use, right? Families aren't going to rent them. They don't have a living room. They don't have a kitchen, right? So I'm asking you to please maintain this zoning. Listen to the recommendation of the Planning Commission. listen to the concerns of the school and the parish, listen to the concerns of the vast majority of homeowners in this neighborhood, right? You've got the petition from 32 households in the area. It's not fair, okay, to favor the maximization of profit for one or a few individuals who do not live in this neighborhood at the expense of those who live in this area and have invested a great deal in it. Right? I think the compromise position is in the zoning code already, and we can all be happy with that. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Mr. Ostertag, did you have, oh, I'm so sorry. Ma'am, yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Elizabeth Stricker, 401 Unity Street. My Victorian era home is one of 4 structures on the corner of Unity and 4th. 3 of these structures are owner-occupied homes with obvious historic appeal. The 4th structure is 318 Unity Street. Mr. Lee Smith is listed as the owner of 318 Unity Street. It is, to all appearances, currently unoccupied. I feel that if Mr. Smith were to remodel that corner structure of 318 Unity Street so that it suited up to 10 unrelated people to share, he would quickly find that that lot, 318, is too small to ensure those 10 people's health, safety, and general welfare. I also stand in opposition to the attempts to rezone the properties east of 318 and south of 318. When you consider the very small size of the 3 lots, that is 316, 318, and then 920 North 4th, you see quite readily how unreasonable it would be to have 30 unrelated individuals living in this tiny area, which is completely surrounded by single-family homes. As for 908 North 4th Street, that one property out of the 4 might be large enough for a nice duplex with some parking. But just like Mr. Smith is absent from these discussions, I find that Mr. and Mrs. Regan have not been actively pushing for this change in zoning for their single-family property, currently, I think, being rented, which is 908 North 4th Street. So I do not know what their plans are. I just know that they are the one applicant of the 4 that has room for up to 10 unrelated individuals for their health, their safety, and their general welfare. Because of the historic nature of the neighborhood that I chose this year to purchase my historic home in, the small size of the 3 lots out of the 4, and the problems my neighbors and I are already facing daily because of the population density being so severe, I asked the City Commission to see this particular application for the 4 properties for a change in zoning as an unreasonable one. I would, in your shoes, see the change if the Regans wanted it, for theirs to be rezoned or for a duplex to be built there, which, you know, I think that maybe they would have the room. But I really do not see how you can look at these 4 properties together and say, looks like there's room for 4 duplexes. It's very, very tight. Also, the current allowances for single-family homes in Atchison are very generous to landlords. I have a background in having been a landlady myself in an R1 neighborhood. I lived in it with my family, then we moved on to a different neighborhood, and we rented to a family. And it was in a place that wasn't quite as generous with allowing 5 unrelated individuals, but I wanted to rent to a family, and it was my way of allowing some affordable housing to happen, and I did this because they had really, really good recommendations. I did not profit by it, but it was a rather fun sort of thing, and it would have been easy to profit by it if I had just charged a little bit more, which I could have easily have done. So, you know, knowing that the current landlords in my neighborhood get to allow 5 unrelated individuals, and then brothers, sisters as well. It's not really limited to just 5 if there's some related people included. It's very generous. It should be very, very easy to make money as a landlord in Atchison. And yet I find that it's very, very hard to maintain my Victorian era home without sinking my entire life savings. So I am really ready to do that. I'm really ready to put my sweat equity and my savings into saving my Victorian home, but it needs a lot of work. And if the value of it isn't going to hold steady, then I will not be able reasonably to put that money and that time equity in. So,
Thank you, Ms. Stricker. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Or, sir. Apologies, I could not see you
No
behind
problem.
the pillar. Okay. Yes,
Thank
your
you
name,
very
please.
much. Yes, I'm Kevin Lunsford, and I'm the principal at St. Benedict's Catholic School. And I'm here, first of all, to say thank you very much for the four-way stop at on 3rd Street. It's definitely helped with the safety of our students. But in doing so, I want to speak with for Father Luke. He was not able to be here, and I just want to. With the current housing configuration in the area, there already exists a relatively high density in the area, and we fear that with the change in zoning, this will only become more challenging for families and specifically children walking to and from the parish and the school. So we'd like for you to consider that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm going to make a
Yes, sir.
probably unwelcome comment, okay?
Okay.
St. Benedict's Church and ACES School contribute to the problem of the density in that area. That's the irony, you know? And they've been there a long time, you know, so they're entitled somewhat to that part of the campus. But stopping the density of that area of the city is not going to get any better.
No.
Ever, hopefully. I'm hoping it never gets any better.
We want it to grow, but we also want to keep our
So
children
you
safe.
can't have growth and have all the conveniences of everybody spread out. I've been in major cities all over the world, and they're packed on top of one another, and they get along, and they exist, and they live, and they can go to work and go to school, and kids can play out in the yard, but they're packed on top of one another, unlike what we enjoy here. And that, I know that's a rationale for living here, is you have those things.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we welcome the Benedictine students. They're in and out of our school every single day. So Benedictine College is a huge part of St. Benedict's Church and St. Benedict's Catholic School.
I know, I'm just saying that the parents coming to the school and the kids coming to the school and the traffic created by the church and the elementary school also contribute to the density of that corner of the city.
Yeah.
Pretty dense on the east side of Second.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Therese Madrak. I live at 525 North 4th Street. I'm here to oppose the proposed zoning change from R1 to R2. My husband Ryan is an Atchison native, and we moved back to Atchison 9 years ago to be close to family and for my husband to teach at Benedictine. To allow this zoning change would compromise the safety of not only my family, but all the other people who walk through the neighborhood. So many people use 4th Street to walk downtown, to go up to Benedictine for sometimes students, sometimes to go to events. There's all kinds of things always going on. They want to go to the library. They want to go to Theater Atchison. They want to just get some exercise. 4th Street's not really hilly, and Atchison is hilly. It's a great street to go up and down for exercise. We chose to live on 4th Street because of its walkability and its close proximity to so many things. Our grade school children walk to school every day, unless it's, raining or snowing, of course. My husband often walks to work. We love the fact that we can safely walk so many places, and we take advantage of that. In fact, We have loved it so much that we went ahead and we put a very expensive, for us, addition onto our house because, as far as we're concerned, it's our forever home. Like, we are staying in that house. I will note that parking is already really tight on 4th Street, and especially when you get up in the 800, 900 block and even the side streets around it, you already have really tight parking. If you put some kind of, multifamily residential where you have a lot more people, you have a real parking problem. And I know that Mr. Ostertag put some parking in behind his duplex on 5th Street. That parking holds 8, maybe 10 cars. That does not account for all of the residents living there and all of the vehicles, so that their street is even more packed than ours is. And that's a really negative component, and it's really unsafe. There is a great need for single-family homes in Atchison, and they are in high demand to rent or to buy. What Ms. Stricker did not note was that she was in a bidding war to even get their house that they bought this year. Lots of families want to live close. They want to live in a house. They would really prefer not to live in an apartment. Also, when Mr. Ostertag purchased the property, he purchased it as an R1. If he doesn't want to build a single-family home there, he, I'm sure, could find somebody else he could sell the lot to without any problem who would happily do so. We have a really strong sense of community in our neighborhood. I want to ensure that to continue. And it's just a lot easier when you get to know the people right around there. Thank you for your time. I also want you to remember that this really would be a spot zoning, which really runs counter to the purpose of zoning in the first place. When you put zoning ordinances in place, the idea is to create areas for specific things. This neighborhood is an R1 neighborhood for a specific reason, and it needs to stay that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, any questions? Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Justin West, 719 North 5th Street. A lot of what I wanted to say has already been said by so many people. I'm mostly here just to lend my voice. I had multiple people come and ask me to come and talk here. So I'm here representing, though I'm one person, potentially dozens of different people who all feel similar to how everyone else has already spoken. Full disclosure, I'm a graduate of the college myself, graduated in 03, my wife in 04. We lived for 4 years in the dorms as hall directors left, came back and lived another 4 years, much like Claire and her husband. And my eldest is now a sophomore at the college. We love the college. We've always loved the college. We will always love the college. It's a wonderful place. And nobody here is saying anything negative about the students. I'm just trying to reiterate those points. What I have heard is a couple of things that felt like red herrings. I think a few other people have already addressed those as well. This isn't about attacking a protected class of people. Students are not a protected class of people. But it is about density at the end of the day. By rezoning, what you're talking about, again, and we've already had these things said, R2 can house up to 10 unrelated people. Those are 10 unrelated people usually going to be attached to the college, all of whom are probably going to have a vehicle. So you're looking at just in 4 houses with R2 designation, you're looking at potentially 40 vehicles in a short little, few block space. That is a lot of additional traffic on these historic streets, on streets where kids are walking to and from school. And Larry, you made the point, aptly so, that the college is there, the school is there, and they do bring traffic. They do flow that traffic rather regulated, mostly up 2nd Street and down 3rd Street. To extend it to 4th Street is just going to cause more traffic, more congestion. I think encouraging the encroachment of that traffic, further south and further west doesn't make a lot of sense. A lot of us have kids that walk to and from school, and having more and more traffic on the streets is just not a good idea. It's not a safe thing. And the other thing is, as you start to take more and more houses, right now it's spot rezoning, but eventually you've got multiple sections that are all R2, all R3, I don't know if R3 is a thing, but you start rezoning things into duplexes, and all of a sudden you've gotten rid of all the R1s, and you've gotten rid of you have this encroachment of non-primary family dwellings, which I think is definitely something we don't want to see in the area as well. So that's all I really want to say. Again, nobody has a problem with the college students. I think everybody here loves the college students. We view the college as an intrinsic part of this entire community. It's just a matter of the density and protecting our children and, of course, the investments that people have made in their houses, as well as the historic aspect of the town.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Jordan Moore, and I live at 923 North 4th Street. And my husband spoke on a lot of the things that we obviously are united on a lot of those other topics. But I did want to just address a couple of other issues that I've heard here. When we approached the parish, when we spoke to them, they had also gotten the notification letter. Father Luke said that there were a record number of families moving into the area this summer alone. And he said most of them were trying to find housing within walking distance to the school, within walking distance to the parish. And we have such an opportunity here. We have the college growing, and hopefully it continues to grow. Our family benefits from that. We have people moving into the area. We have friends that were from here. They recently moved back. They want to be a part of this community. And so we have these certain properties available within walking distance. And it would be really too bad if on the flip side of what you were saying, and we're saying college students can't live here, if we told families, hey, if you want to move to Atchison, you aren't welcome in the historic corridor because the empty lots that are there are going to be redeveloped and rezoned. We have such an opportunity that we can still allow him to make a profit, still allow our community to remain the same, to adhere to the zoning properties, the zoning, and move forward with a compromise solution. And I was one of the ones who went around and got the signatures for the petition. And I would say it was both a beautiful thing that came out of this situation and also a little bit of a disheartening thing that came out of this situation. Because I got to meet a lot of neighbors that I never would have gotten to meet, that just our lives don't path, and we had beautiful conversations. But I also have to say that a lot of people said, well, they won't listen to us. It doesn't matter. You're wasting your time. And that is really disheartening to say that we could have, like, you all are elected officials, right? You represent us.
I was not elected.
Okay. But generally, you all represent, I'll exempt you then. But you all represent, this experience, I believe, has taught me that I don't think I'll do that. So I think the thing is, too, that we are relying upon you to represent our interests as a community. So if you all decide to go ahead and rezone, the planning commission has rejected this twice. And the neighbors have begged you to not go along with this. And we have asked you to represent our interests as a whole. And so that would be really disappointing if one person benefited, and college students, which we love, but they're transitory. They come through this town, and hopefully I've been on the board of the Atchison Farmers Market for the past 3 years, a volunteer position, and we love to capture the revenue from those people, and I know all the other businesses here do too. But we also have to think about the people who are choosing to sink money and time and effort and commitment into this town over the long term, not just for a couple of years. So please represent the whole interest, not just one interest, and vote no on the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say something here. I've got 3 duplexes that I rent here in Atchison, and there's no college students living in any. Families living in all 6 of them.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
So it's not necessarily.
Mm-hmm. He has declared that his interest in this property is college students. So that's what we're discussing.
Duplex, like Murphy says, he grew up in a duplex too. I live in a duplex right now.
Yeah, we lived in a duplex as well, and we're grateful for that time that we lived in a duplex. The thing is that when we lived in the duplex, it was a whole bunch of duplexes too. So this is spot zoning, and if we just choose to not care about the regulations. And I think too, the idea that it doesn't make a difference is just really not an honest one. I mean, I'll just tell you a quick story about our neighbor on the corner of Unity and 4th. He's an elderly man in his 90s. And when one of our other neighbors, their kids would, we just found out recently that their kids would plow or shovel the snow all along that block because he was elderly and he couldn't do it. And so then he, out of like, I can do it myself, bought a snowblower and used it as his walker and walked and would snowblow the entire side of the street for all of those families. And then he became older and he couldn't do it. And so now my husband and my sons will plow that area for him. His daughter brought us cookies to thank us. It's a community feel. But what is happening right now, just in that one small microcosm of an example, is none of the properties who are up for rezoning, and we have friends who are landlords, there are other people who do this, and maybe you do too, but there has never been any snow removal on the sidewalks, ever. And so the kids are trying, by the landlords, so the kids are trying to walk to school through the snow. And the college students are trying to get to Benedictine through the snow. And when we had that big snow, it all compacted down to ice and was a safety concern. There's just a difference in the way that you think of your community and the way that you think of your neighbors when you live there and you have to see them face to face every day. Craig does not live in this neighborhood, and somebody who couldn't be here today, if you pull up all of the property around his house, he bought up property around his house because he doesn't want this same thing to happen to him that he's trying to force onto our community. That's not fair. It's not fair that because those properties weren't all available for sale or because people didn't have the money to purchase them all around our neighborhood, that we don't get subjected to the same treatment that he has allowed himself. If he could build it next door to his house. The college students don't walk every day. Our window looks over the parking lot that's the backyard now. They drive to school a lot. So they could drive in from somewhere else too. Just please consider everybody's interest, not just one person's.
Okay, thank you very much. I just would like to make a point, and then Mr. Ostertag, did you want to address? Just go ahead and clarify, and then I'll make my point.
Craig Ostertag, 801 North 14th. About the amount of people, these are 4-bedroom. I did rent the last one to 10 girls. There's only 8 girls live next door. The back parking lot does take up 10, so somebody didn't do their math right when they said it doesn't have enough cars, and those girls only have 4 cars, or 8 cars. So not all the girls in either apartment have all the cars. And the other people that signed this, they have no intentions of building anything, if anybody had concerns with that.
All right, okay. Any questions for Mr. Ostertag? Okay, if not, thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I would
Yes,
just like
ma'am.
to clarify really quickly that it doesn't matter about intentions, right? It matters about what the zoning is, because when you rezone something, you give permission to that situation. So he can't say that it doesn't matter what the intention is for these properties, that he's the only one rezoning. Well, then why would you rezone all 4 of them? Because you are giving permission for all 4 of those properties to be rezoned. If they're being rezoned, you lose your ability to dictate what happens on that property. They can choose whatever they want to build. I just want to make that counterpoint, that distinction.
Thank you. Okay, I certainly appreciate everyone's input, because this is obviously a public forum, public discussion. We certainly, as a commission, as you've heard from all of the commissioners here, that we take our duty very seriously. I just want to clarify a couple of things. One is that we do hear all sides of the argument that have been presented here today. We do have a duty to all of our citizens. I think we all take our oaths very seriously. We certainly want to have safe and affordable properties for everyone. I think that in terms of housing, there are those who certainly can afford single-family homes. There are those who may not be able to afford to purchase a single-family home. We are also responsible to those citizens as well. I also want to make the point that if we do disagree, we do so amicably. It does not mean that we do not understand your concerns. It doesn't mean that we don't share some of your concerns. However, it does mean that we are balancing our duty to all of our citizens, and we don't take that lightly. And I just wanted to make those observations very clear. At this juncture, yes, Mr. Westhoff.
A couple times now, there's been discussions about following regulations, and so I thought I would take a moment to read through the city's zoning regulation that's pertinent to, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that if there's a motion and a second to rezone, then the mayor should go through each factor.
Okay.
And just so that there is a discussion. A lot of this has happened already, but there are about 8 or 9 factors in the code that you should consider as part of whether it's reasonable or not to rezone.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Sure.
We have 2 options in front of us, or 3 options in front of us. One of the other options, we have the vote for the change of zoning, or against the change in zoning.
You can approve the planning commission.
Or we can we send it back to the planning?
Send it back. You could also table it and let somebody look into the historical issue.
Well, I'm thinking that it was a 3-2 vote, which isn't even a full planning commission. I don't.
We had one missing, at least one.
One planning commissioner had just resigned, Mr. Rowland, and you just, appointed a replacement for him, and one other planning commissioner is abstaining from voting on this issue.
Okay.
So,
all right.
if there was another if it went back, you could theoretically have 6.
Is there a majority or 2/3?
It's going to have to
That
be
is
4
something-
votes to
2/3.
override the planning commission.
No, I mean the planning commission. Is it a majority?
It's a majority. of those.
Okay. It's a
Unlike
majority.
ours, which is.
Majority present.
Okay. Present. Okay.
Oh, at the planning commission level? Majority president is, don't they have to have, what's a quorum?
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be a majority of those appointed. So if there are only 6 there, you have a quorum, but you need 4 to be a majority.
Majority of a quorum.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right,
I have a
Commissioner.
question
Oh, yes.
on this policy consideration here. It says zoning of property R2 does not make it a code-compliant duplex to be occupied by 2 families. What is that?
I wrote it because I don't want the other people to zone to think that they can turn it into a duplex without.
Oh, I see, for the other
Those
non-registered.
properties are fire separation. Those 3 other properties, family homes, do not have any of those kind of infrastructure changes. So if they wanted it, like I said, they would have to do infrastructure building in order to create a duplex.
Okay.
He's saying that there is a separate building code and separate regulations for a duplex.
So this duplex is going to have a separating firewall between it, is that correct?
Yeah, 1 hour rated wall.
Is that right?
Right.
What would that entail?
Layers of 5/8 on each side from foundation to, and some, depending on the size of the house, foundation to roof.
Okay.
Good thing to have.
Okay.
One side's on fire.
Right. Okay, all right. Okay. Commissioner Murphy, did you have a specific motion that you would like?
Do we have a motion on the floor yet?
Well, I'll make one if you need one, but you're not going to like
these
it.
regulations first.
Okay, that's fine.
I'd like to read through them.
Yeah.
Because if you do vote to rezone anything, you have to consider each of these explicitly. So I want to read through them first. This is according to our City Ordinance 803.45. following factors will be considered by the Planning Commission and then City Commission in determining the reasonableness for granting a rezoning request. 1, the character of the neighborhood. 2, the zoning and uses of properties nearby. 3, the suitability of the subject property for the uses to which it has previously been restricted. 4, the extent to which removal of those restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby properties. 5, the length of time the subject property has remained vacant as currently zoned. 6, the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare by the destruction of the value of the property of the person making the rezoning request as compared to the hardship imposed upon that person. 7, the recommendations of permanent or professional staff.
Could you read that 6 again?
I think 6, we may need a interpretation from Bob.
Just read.
So I'll read it again. That was the most interesting, for sure, or the most convoluted, I guess.
Vague, maybe?
It's almost too specific, actually. The relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare by the destruction of the value of the property of the person making the rezoning request as compared to the hardship imposed upon that person.
Sounds like that's something you need to go review in the future.
Yeah, we could take a look at it. For the person doing the rezoning. So we had recommendations of permanent or professional staff, and the last one is the conformance of the requested change to the adopted or recognized master plan being utilized by the city. That would be our 2016 comprehensive plan.
Right.
There are also state statutes to consider, but most are contained within
I think
these
we could talk this to death.
Yes, we can.
And everybody could make a great argument about any of those points, either way. So I'm going to throw a curveball here. Now, I want to say, though, somebody could have bought those lots.
That's always a possibility.
You could have done that, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
I tried to do that this spring. They were not for sale.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, I didn't know that, thank you.
If you're still taking comments.
Yes, for now.
Because I want to go to your 2016 plan that you talked about. Here's the question I think you have to consider. Why was it R1 originally?
I don't know what was originally.
Well,
was
if
it
you don't know,
1899?
if you don't know why it was R1 originally, why would you change it? This is like coming to, in the middle of a forest, to a gate as you're walking down the road, and you're looking at this gate and you're saying, gee, I wonder why somebody put a stupid gate in the middle of the road. And so you tear it down without knowing why the gate was there.
The cows got out.
Right, the cows got out, exactly. There was something that was going on. So why did you zone us as R1? And why is it so imperative to change us to R2? That's the question I think you need to consider. And if you're doing it because he simply bought the property, is that a good enough reason to do it? And you're all sitting here and you're all businessmen, and you're all arguing with your own self-interest here.
I have no
Because,
self-interest.
no, you're looking at him and you're saying,
I have no
okay,
self-interest.
I've got property or I've got business. No, yes, you are. You are. You're not removing yourself from this. You're not removing your agency.
Yeah, I think you've exceeded your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to throw you a curveball here.
No, wait a minute here.
Are we still in discussion or am I sitting down?
No, I think he needs to, if he's got something to say, let's listen to him.
Well, okay, just a moment. First of all, we're going to have order, we're going to be civil, we can certainly disagree, but we're going to disagree in a manner that befits this body. So, sir, do you have something in addition to say at this time?
Unless Mr. Wilcox wants to debate me on something. No.
I don't.
All I want to say,
actually.
I want to say is that you've got R1. Why are you changing it to R2? Just because he bought the property, is that why
We
you're
haven't
doing
changed
it?
anything yet.
Or is, well, I've been sitting here listening to all the comments.
Well, because
And-
all the comments are geared towards one opinion. What I've tried to do is, what are the alternatives to the opinions that I've been deluged with in emails and texts and what you've said here?
Good point, good point.
So-
But also, I'd like to remind you, you've been deluged.
And
Well, I've also heard from people that, I don't care, it's all right with me, works for me, I didn't sign the petition, I moved it on. I lived at 1023 North Fourth at one time.
There's also a lot of
So I know
people
the
that talk
neighborhood.
about maybe just combining R1 and R2 everywhere.
But why would you do that? It
Well,
makes
it's-
no
well,
sense. I mean, why have zoning at all if you're going to do that?
Well, that's a
I'm
good
not
argument.
going to, but I'm just saying there's a lot of people.
That's what I want to know. I mean, again, you're in an R1 neighborhood. Why do you want to go to
Don't look at me,
R2?
I'm
I have
ready
a
to do
question.
something.
Okay, all right, just a
That's
moment.
enough.
Commissioner Murphy, I apologize.
Can we
Commissioner-
move on? I would like to make a motion.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, may I address the issue since he directed something at
No,
us?
okay, hold on. And
About
just
purchasing
a
the
moment,
property?
Just a moment. All right, at this juncture, I am going to close all comments at this time. I am sorry, ma'am, if you could please have a seat. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, Commissioner, just a moment.
He was about to
Commissioner-
make a motion.
Commissioner Greenlee, did you have an additional comment?
yes, I do.
Okay.
Going back to what the gentleman said about all of us being businessmen and money involved, I'm not a businessman. I resent the fact that you make a statement to make it look like I have financial gain in this proposition. I don't. What I have in this proposition is the interest of the citizens of the community for housing that could possibly be affordable for anyone that wanted to rent it. That's my concern. I don't have one interest whatsoever financially in that property. I have no connection with Mr. Oswald, so I resent what you just said.
Let's move with your.
Okay, all right. Vice Mayor Wilcox, you had a...
Well, I'm ready to make a proposal if we're done
Okay.
debating.
All right.
And it's going to be a surprise, given all the comments and all the concerns, and I appreciate them, share the vast majority of them. And I would move that we approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission to deny the request of zoning change for those 4 properties.
Okay, it's been moved that we deny the zoning change. Is there a second? Okay, I will second it. It's been moved and seconded that we reject or approve, you said, the Planning Commission. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Bill is his hand up here.
Okay, Bill, I'm so sorry. Do we have a question? Yes, Bill.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Murphy.
we have not taken into consideration the third option.
Okay, there's a question. And what is the third option?
Third option is to send it back to the Planning Commission to reconsider, because there was a 3-2 vote, which is, it takes 4 of us to override it, and it only
That's right.
takes 3 of them to pass it. I think it needs to go back to this.
It would take
Okay.
4 of the full planning. If they have full,
No, I mean for
Attendance.
us.
I know.
Does it take 4 of us?
yes, so, okay.
Approve the denial.
To approve the denial, which is the motion on the table.
That is the
and
motion on the
second
table.
To approve the denial that Planning Commission sent to you, which is the motion on the table, takes a simple majority vote
Okay.
of the commission. To overrule the Planning Commission's recommendation, whatever it happens to be at any time, not just this situation, it requires a 4/5 vote,
Okay.
at least.
And
Okay.
what about the option of
Sending it back would be a simple majority, I believe, correct?
And, okay, well, we have those 3 things, and we're voting on a yes or a no here, which
Yeah, but-
doesn't take into consideration the third option.
We can vote on that later.
Right, if this motion fails, we can certainly take up another motion to send it back to
You
the
currently
Planning
have a
Commission.
motion and a second on the table.
We do.
to
And if
do
we-
this,
and if
and you
we-
can vote yes or no
If
on
we
that.
vote yes, we've denied it.
Correct.
Right.
And how do we change it?
You can't,
You
I mean,
can't.
there would be
You have
another, there would be
Commission.
any application, it
No,
it doesn't
but if
mean a
we
new
send it
app.
back, they'll see it quicker.
I just feel the sentiment against doing this is much stronger than one or two properties. I hope somebody will put some affordable housing in there. I would hope that it would be Mr. Ostertag, because the quality of his work is exemplary from what I've seen. If he chooses not to, that's his choice. I would also say to those other people that live there, things are going to change. And don't think you can come here every time you don't want something to change that is not going to change. Because stuff is going to change.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So
Okay,
we
so-
currently have a motion and a
Yes.
second on the table, and we need to
Yes.
take a vote.
I
We
wanna
do.
I want to make sure this is clear. A yes vote
A yes vote,
denies Mr. Ostertag the rezoning.
Yes,
Correct.
it does.
A
Okay.
Okay.
yes vote merely accepts the planning commission,
yes.
all it's doing.
Can we send it back to the planning
How do we
commission if
send
we
it
have a
back?
yes vote?
No, if you vote yes on it, it is,
He'd have to start all
there
over
would
again?
the matter would be finalized.
Right, yes, that is correct. All right, so do we have any other question? Any other question? Do we feel ready?
I'm
Yes,
I'm
yes,
just
sir.
making sure that we have this in order. If this were to pass, we won't ever be able to send it back.
It would require an,
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's the question.
there's
Yeah,
nothing to
that's
send
correct.
back.
There's nothing to send back if we vote, if we pass this.
Right.
If
You'd
we,
have to start all over again with an application.
Yes, that's right. That's right. All right, any other question? Any other question? Okay. Are we ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
No.
Okay, it sounds like that there were 3 noes and 2 ayes, so the motion fails. All right. Commissioner Murphy, do you have
I would
a,
like to make a motion that we send this back to the planning commission for reconsideration.
okay, it's been moved that we send this item back to the Planning Commission for reconsideration. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we send this item back.
According to the statute.
Yes, sir.
You gotta send it back with a recommendation.
Okay.
So, motion needs to include a recommendation to look at this, whether it's the historical part of it or a recommendation to consider whether
Well, one of the things in this little thing that he just read, it doesn't have anything to do with change of use, because residential is residential, whether it be R1 or R2. It's just the structures that we're going to build on it. It's not like we're putting in a alcohol plant or a liquor store or anything like this. We're not changing.
There used to be a liquor store there.
Huh? Yeah, there was, wasn't there?
So what do you want planning commission to
And a
reconsider?
laundromat.
In your motion.
Reconsider if they, I don't know if this makes sense, do they view this as a change of use?
Or the historical nature of the,
You know what?
No.
I mean, you can put that in there if you want to, but the biggest thing is use. People are worried about what it's going to be used for. It's going to be used like we're going to have 47 people running out of every apartment or duplex side, and I just think it's not a change of use. And
Okay.
I think change of use is the reason you have a zoning, the reason you have business versus residential is because there's a change of use. It's not a change of use if you've got people living in this house or a house with an extra wall. It's not a change of use.
Maybe we should vote on.
Well, we need to have
no,
something
no.
specific.
We do,
Oh,
so.
okay, I'll change my motion. I make a motion that we send this back to the planning commission in terms of, is this a change of use?
Okay, so we're looking at 803.45.2. Is that what we're looking at? This is
Yes.
what they would like, okay, all right.
Well,
very
that's,
good.
properties nearby. I don't, my hesitation with that is I think that Planning Commission will tell you that it's probably too vague.
Well, you're sending a question to them, and that's, the statute says that you can return it with statements specifying the basis for the bodies for discipline. Statements specifying the reason.
So how do I verbalize that?
Well, what do you want? I mean,
What if they just,
You can send it back and say, did you consider whether this violates the state statute on building close to a historical building?
Okay.
You probably need to know that anyhow.
The exact argument of what we voted against.
Okay.
Well, if
So-
there's a state statute, that's a good, I think he's got a good point. That would,
Okay. All right, so Commissioner Murphy, how would you like to reword that
Well, I
statement?
tell you what, if you take 803.45.3, the sustainability of the subject property for the use of which it has been restricted, I think that would be the question that we should be asking ourselves. It's been restricted. The only thing that's been restricted on R1 versus R2 is the kind of structure that you build. Change of, but not change of use. So we're really looking at 803.45.3 as the question, because there's not going to be a change of use.
Okay.
It's going to be a change of structure.
Okay.
Which, am I wrong or am I right about that?
So,
I'm just-
Bob, is that sufficient for you if the motion reads that the commission returns this matter to the Planning Commission regarding the suitability of the subject property for the uses to which it has been restricted? Will that satisfy?
That's fine with me, yeah.
Okay.
See what the Planning Commission.
Okay, very good. Well, as long as you are satisfied. Okay, so are you okay with that?
That sounds satisfactory.
Okay, so there, it has been moved by Commissioner Murphy that we will send this matter back to the Planning Commission regarding the question on the suitability of the subject property for the use to which it has been restricted. Is there a second on this motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion or a question?
I think we need to check this historical regulation that somebody brought up. What do you think, Councilor?
Back.
Yeah, I think we need to put that, you don't object to that.
That part doesn't disturb me near as much as one person is restricting someone else's person. And the fact that, and even with the historic fact, what's going to be considered to be historic?
I don't know.
It's, well,
Just
it all gets up for
something better.
definition, but use, you could say they're going to reside there, there's not going to be a business there, there's not going to be an industry there. That would be the premise on which we should look at, is there a change of use?
Okay.
So you're
Are there any
amending
other
it again,
questions?
right?
No,
You're
he is not
amending it
amending his
to
motion.
include, okay.
He
Okay.
has not amended his motion.
No, he hasn't amended, no. We
I
were just
I would speak
discussing.
against doing this because they've already said what they have to say.
There's
And-
only 3-2.
Well, it's only 3-2.
And
We're
when
short
we're
of
short
one
person-
candidate wins by 2 votes, November 5th. It's still,
We're short one person.
well, I'm more inclined to make a decision than I am to bounce the ball.
No.
So,
We have a motion and a second.
because we're going to end up back here probably anyway.
We most definitely will. Okay, it has been, is there any other discussion, any other question? Okay. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
No.
No. All right, Commissioner Greenlee, you voted yes, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right, motion carries. All right, this item and matter has been sent back to the Planning Commission. All right, thank you, everyone, for your attention. Thank you for everyone who spoke. Again, it's important to have a public discourse, but again, I cannot state firmly enough that to disagree is normal, but in this chamber, we are going to disagree in a manner that is befitting this chamber. And so when we are addressing commissioners, please address them by commissioner, not by their name. And we need to respect the decorum and not delve into anything other than respect for one another and the importance of this body. So again, thank you all very much. We appreciate it. I know I have gotten many emails and concerns and conversations. I know that Vice Mayor Wilcox did as well as all of us. But again, I cannot stress enough that we need to remain with a certain level of decorum. So with that, I thank everyone for that vigorous discussion. At this time, we will move on to item number 4, resolution number 3399, accepting TA grants presented by Clinton McNamee. Page 2.
Not be interested in the rest of the business. I just think
okay.
Inevitable.
All right.
All right, yes.
Earlier this year, the commission authorized staff to submit grant applications to KDOT for pedestrian improvements along Unity Street and North Fifth Street. We recently received notice that both projects were awarded funding. Unity Street improvements include new sidewalk, curb ramps, things of that nature, plus pedestrian lighting from 2nd to 6th Street, and a pedestrian-activated crosswalk signal and improvements to that crosswalk in front of St. Benedict's School. That project requires 20% local match. The current construction estimate total is $1,018,099, with the 20% match being $203,620.
What was that match should be how much? Excuse me.
$203,620, and that's just an estimate, so it'll probably change a bit by the time we get to that point. The North Fifth Street improvements are part of the Safe Routes to School program through Transportation Alternatives. And very similar to the Unity Street project, except for the pedestrian lighting. There's no pedestrian lighting with that, so it's sidewalks, it's, or you see some like rough transitions from Brick Street intersections. We'll improve those approaches to those side streets. And then there will be a pedestrian activated crosswalk at 5th and Atchison where the green crosswalk is. The project there, the total estimated cost is $924,389. There is no local match requirement for that one. Another agency, or not agency, but another division within KDOT funded all the local match for Safe Routes projects on this cycle. So when you hash it all out, we'll probably end up doing that as one project at the same time, same contract. If those numbers hold out true, it'll be closer to a 90-10 split with the grant funding and local match, which is a pretty good deal. So they're both included in our capital improvements program at a higher local match right now budgeted than what will actually be the case because of that additional funding that we didn't know about at the time we applied. And with that, I would just recommend that we adopt Resolution 3399, which would allow us to accept both grant awards from KDOT.
Who's going to bid that out? Is the city going to bid that out or some engineering company? Who's going to put the bids out? I want to make sure we get these local people involved in this deal.
TA required.
I'm trying to remember that one. I think
KDOT's going to bid it out?
Unless they've changed something.
Yeah, I think C-CLIP we bid out, and they bid out all the TA grants.
That monthly bid thing, log on, it's thrilling.
Better than we just had.
The only time I've seen Justin ever dance was at him listening in on those bid on the phone. So
that's on a KDOT bid, you say? So what's that?
They have their own. So there is no. I don't believe the subject rates. So there's not that.
So if somebody wanted to.
But I'll tell you this. Like for example, there's a concrete contractor bigger than the rest of them. They don't typically participate I'm being facetious a little.
No, I know.
It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I know.
To go through, more so than what it would be if we would have bid it locally.
Absolutely.
So you're asking me like what holds local people back from doing that? We have a very large, very capable concrete contractor. Like they don't do it because of other things, but also because they're busy enough elsewhere. They don't really need to.
Absolutely. So what's the website, or how do you get on this bidding sheet? How do you get on this bid?
We'd have to look
Can
it
you
up.
tell me?
I would have to.
Yeah, you can get it there, that's good.
I have a question. Is this our local match responsibility of this 203,000?
It's approximate, yes.
Okay, how does that reflect in our budget?
We have it currently budgeted in the CIP.
We have budgeted
Yes,
already?
for that year.
I was pretty sure it was, but.
For more than that.
We actually have more than that budget.
Okay.
Because we thought we were going to be local. We budgeted for local match on both
Okay,
projects.
I'm good. I was want to make sure it was budgeted.
All right. Any other questions?
How soon will this be put up for bid?
It'll
probably
2026.
be late 25, I would guess.
Late 25.
We have
Construction in
another
26.
sidewalk grant project that's more imminent and will start soon, the actual construction. And that one will be completed more soon. But
It's already been bid out or not?
that one's totally ready to go, yeah.
The previous one, if you'll recall, over the summer, we had awarded it or approved the award to the low bidder who could not meet the DBE requirements. And so then we had to come back and go to the next lowest bid. You
That's for
remember
a
that
different
conversation?
project. I'm
That
just
was for
saying
that one.
that the process takes a little bit, and this will be late 2025 and 2026, most likely.
I just wish it would have been one item above in the agenda so that these people could
Oh,
learn
sure.
about
Well,
Unity Street between 3 and 6th.
Yeah.
5th is all going to get new sidewalks.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions, concerns, comments? If not, is there a motion to adopt resolution number 3399, accepting KDOT Transportation Alternatives Grant funding for Unity Street and North Fifth Street pedestrian improvements?
I make such a motion.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 5, also Mr. McNamee's, resolution number 3400, authorizing the bridge removal contract U Street. Mr. McNamee.
All right, so back in August of 2022, a hole had formed in the deck of the U Street Bridge, resulting in the closure of the bridge until it could be inspected. The inspection occurred through mutual conversations between the city and the state. It was determined that the condition of the bridge, other than the hole itself, was beyond repairs that would be considered viable or feasible. And the replacement cost, that was something that the state, so far down the list of their priorities that it was unlikely that that was going to ever happen unless the city were to step in and foot a significant portion of that and or maybe even the total cost. You know, we're talking about millions, you know, not several million, but a few $1 million probably to replace something like that. So the idea was we would keep it closed until it could be put on the docket for demolition. And so that's what we're looking at tonight, is an agreement with KDOT, basically allow KDOT to come in, to remove the bridge, to make the modifications to the dead ends that will result from it. And it is all paid for by the state. The city does not have a cost in this. We didn't have to we didn't have to relocate any utilities, which if you read through the agreements, you might see some talk about that. We ended up not having to relocate anything there. And the trail language that's in there kind of threw me for a loop when I first read it. But to see that basically anything that they do in this project, they will be covering the cost of, if it includes modification of the trail that goes under there. However, we are agreeing to maintain the trail once they do their project or their demolition. So it's just like it was before.
Need a motion on that?
Yes,
I
we
so
do.
move.
Okay, it's been moved then and seconded that we adopt resolution number 3400, authorizing the mayor to execute agreement number 45-24 between the City of Atchison and the Kansas Department of Transportation for project number 73-3 KA 3890-01, which is the removal of the U Street Bridge. Is there a question or discussion? If not, yes.
I just have one. And I'm sure studies have been done on this bridge and the traffic that it did carry, why it was originally built. And did all that disappear? The fact that it was, when they put that in back in the 70s, there was a reason they put it in. And is it just the money part? Is that?
KDOT did an analysis of the traffic. They did an analysis of their own budget, and they determined that this was a project to direct towards removal rather than rebuilding. They said it would require, if you read the review on it, the project on it, it would require like a full rebuild of the bridge.
The reason for coming back to me now, the reason that the replacement estimate was so high is that they don't build bridges at that grade anymore. They don't mean
bridges what?
At that grade.
Oh, yeah.
They don't
Yeah,
build bridges like that.
So somebody should have voted no a long time ago. That's
Right
what's
away
wrong with that
acquisitions
bridge.
on either side would have made it really substantial. I don't know why that bridge exists. From what the initial conversations when KDOT said, testing well, what are we going to do here? I can't figure. The traffic count's less than 150 a day before it was closed, and sometimes traffic counts can tend a little high because when you put those things out on and the rumors about removal, somebody might go by and drive over it a few extra times. It was less than 150 a day. It was multi-million to replace. The last thing I'll say is that I remember there was a traffic study in the average detour time, if you picked like the ideal spot on one side where you would use it to get to the ideal spot on the other, the like worst case scenario detour time was something like 90 seconds. So that's really hard to justify for the acquisition and everything. So that's some of the historical context on it from what I would.
That answers my question.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, concerns? Okay. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Mr. McNamee for item number 6, on-call engineering contract.
Let's try not to build any bridges in the future.
Okay. Very good. All right. Mr. McNamee, number 6.
All right, so the proposed contract is for on-call civil engineering services to fill the void left from the retirement of our longtime city engineer that he left back in June, and we have not been able to find qualified applicants to interview since that. It's still open, but we need to do something because we have projects coming up, especially like Unity Street, North Fifth, in which we will need design services to keep those projects moving forward. So the premise would be that the on-call engineer services would fulfill the role that the city engineer supplied. And so that was a lot of KDOT-funded projects that we do, or CDBG projects where we design sidewalk improvements or highway resurfacing projects. It's not intended, although it could be, it was not intended to do specialized projects like that we usually go out for qualifications for, such as like water main replacements or a large project at one of the treatment plants or something like that. What I say all that to say that if we had a project at the water treatment plant, for example, the company that we're planning to work with for the on-call service is not necessarily restricted from putting in on that, but it's not all projects are automatically going to go to the on-call engineering. So it was meant to fulfill the role of the city engineer who wouldn't have done a project at this treatment plant. Does that make sense? So we're focused on transportation-related projects, highways and sidewalks, and maybe some stormwater or something is what our city engineer fulfilled. However, having said that, some of those projects require supplemental design for like pedestrian lighting, and we'd end up paying a company, a certain fee to design the electrical component. However, this company has access to those specialties as well, and so it would create some efficiencies there. I say all that to kind of get that out of the way. We received 6 proposals. All the proposals, we could have selected any one of them and been in good hands. They were all professional, quality proposals. The company that staff has selected, they had very competitive rates. They have shown interest in city projects in the past. I've met with them 2 or 3 times over the last 10 years probably. Never been able to get together on a project, but they've come here and met me face to face. That kind of means something to me anyway. Their engineer that would be working with us, he works, and that's Brad Johnson. He's here tonight. And the company is Benish. I should add that. Brad works here in Atchison, and he splits his time between here and Topeka mostly. So there's some efficiency to be gained there to have somebody in town that can stop in, and we can have face-to-face communications every so often. And any work in excess of $25,000 will be brought to the commission as a normal design proposal would be, based on hourly rates that they've provided, but we can do the work to figure out kind of if we're going to be nearing that threshold and make sure the commission is able to vote on anything significant or $25,000 or more.
I was wondering why he was sitting there. Glutton for punishment.
I'd like to be involved in a little less than, even projects less than 20. I think that's a pretty. Just keep us posted, okay?
Yeah, I think we report on any projects over 10, if I'm not mistaken, but that's kind of after the fact.
Clinton, I have one question.
Yes.
Everything's based on projects. How many projects do we incur in a year? 10, 40?
It's not 10, and it's definitely not 40.
More between.
I would say.
I'm just trying to figure out.
I would say on a good year, you're less than 5 for sure, and probably more like 2 to 3. You're looking at a C-clip project about every year, which is highway, and sidewalk projects it's just a function of how successful we are with grants. So, I'd say over the last 8 to 10 years, we probably averaged maybe 1 a year. I've never actually thought about it that way.
Well, I was thinking in terms of a full-time engineer versus this, project specific, I guess would be the right way. And we could actually save quite a bit of money, I'm just speculating, by doing this with a project specific. Am I assuming too much?
I looked at that a couple years ago. Previous city manager was thinking maybe that was the long-term view, and it might be. Leading up to Dave. Dave was our previous city engineer, knowing he was going to retire we knew it ahead of time. And the easiest thing I could get to, so we have 2 people in engineering, or we have 2 positions. We have the city engineer and we have the engineering technician who does the drawings and also helps out with a lot of other, he's not just the CAD guy, but he does a lot of other things. So those 2, when they were both here, had they were certified KDOT inspectors, which KDOT requires on projects. And when we did not have KDOT certified inspectors in-house, we had to hire someone to do that. And when you have more than 1 or 2 projects a year, that almost by itself, if not completely, pays for the salaries of those individuals. And we have more control over their workload and things, and we can direct them however. I feel like it's better to have an internal engineering staff That's my opinion.
Most-
And I think that as long as we continue to do projects and not become stagnant, that would always be the case.
We'll keep
Now-
an eye on it.
Yeah.
I think this time next year, you're going to be able to tell us how many billable hours you had.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that, but most likely there will be years where it's a better budget proposition and years where it might go over the budget proposition of a salaried employee, but we will definitely take a look at that in years future, and
We know
we're
where
keeping
Brad
the
is.
position open as well.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions, concerns? Okay. All right, is there a motion to authorize staff to execute the proposed on-call engineering services contract with Benish?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we are now ready for our communications. Mr. Mark Westhoff?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. 2 items in communications. First is the September financials report. You take a look at it. It's a good, strong position that we're in. And then the Atchison Event Center's third quarter financials as well.
Wonderful, and there are no informational items at this point. Governing body comments, Commissioner Greenlee.
I don't have any, other, just hats off to Chief Wilson and Chief Weisher for keeping us safe and taking care of the folks on the river, the Lewis and Clark people. I'm sure they were glad to see you and kept them safe while they were here.
Thank you.
They had some exciting times from what I understand, so, yeah. Good job, folks.
I've said enough.
Excellent. Okay, Vice Mayor Wilcox. All right, Commissioner Slattery.
Several of us attended this
League of Kansas.
League of Kansas Municipalities meeting. And I really thought, I was really impressed with it. I'm sorry I kind of made a little, started to make a set of notes that I wanted to convey to here that wasn't there. But most of us were, I think, there anyhow. But anyhow, I just had a couple things I wanted to share with you. I'll try to do it the next meeting.
Okay.
I thought it was really, Mayor's represents us well at that group. I thought we learned a lot.
Thank you.
I did. I learned a lot.
Wonderful. It was a pleasure. Commissioner Murphy.
I would just like to congratulate you on being re-elected to the Kansas League of Municipalities. Not everybody knows what's involved in that, but it's an honor, and I think we're lucky to have you, and they're lucky to have you as well.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I would just like to say it's an honor and a privilege to serve with you fine gentlemen. I don't take that lightly, and our involvement in the League of Kansas Municipalities is consequential and something that is very important for our city to collaborate with other cities and to find out information and in turn be available to them as well. We have some really great and fine folks that we serve with, so appreciate that. Also would like to thank Mr. Westhoff for also being there. I think he made some great connections as well, so we appreciate that. Again, thank you all for your service, and I can't reiterate enough that sometimes we may disagree. That is normal, but we will do so in a fashion that is dignified, so appreciate that. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to Land Bank. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn to Land Bank. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned to Land Bank.
5-minute break.
Oh, yes, we will have a 5-minute break and then we will.
Make a motion. Take a potty break.